Seeing the smiling face of Congressman Thom Tancredo, who is sitting across from me. Congressman, I think the first time you were on our show was 5 years ago. Welcome back.
Well, I'm flattered that you would recall that, but it's a pleasure to join you. And
good to have you with us. You just published in Human Events a piece titled "Joe Wilson's Victory on Illegal Immigration." And Joe Wilson, of course, famously shouting, "You lied," to President Barack Obama from the floor of the House. Why would you consider that, as a former member of Congress? You know, it seems like in any other venue that might be appropriate, but during a joint, a speech to the joint session of Congress, how could you praise that?
It's easy. I've been there. And I will tell you that the outrage I see is selective. I remember distinctly the president at the time was a guy by the name of George Bush. He was addressing a joint session of Congress, exactly the same situation. He started to talk about Social Security reform, and you may recall
in 2005.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was a reaction on the part of the Democrats that was quite, disconcerting, maybe you'd say, but everybody started booing, hissing, yelling, chanting things like
yelling.
Well, they, hey, ho, I couldn't tell you what there was.
Word. Nobody called the president a liar.
Well, how do I know? You're right. It wasn't distinguishable. But so what? There was a lot of, the fact is that these things. You're right. You're right.
Constantly.
You're absolutely
the
right.
Republicans would go, they would all in concert go, like that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
different than yelling.
You
lie, boy.
I don't think so. I don't think it's that different at all. I think if you're going to,
well, then let's talk about the
quote decorum of the House. I'm just telling you that there isn't all that much of a decorum to I mean, I don't want to see this happen all the time, don't get me wrong, but from my point of view, this statement that he made, and is certainly I don't know whether he was just getting out of the cadence.
He being
Joe Wilson.
Joe Wilson.
I don't know whether if he was saying stuff and then all of their it's like when you're singing in the choir and you keep singing and everybody else has stopped and you're going, gee, that was me.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that. I don't know.
His wife later said, "I can't believe you did that."
I can't believe he did it.
Who was that idiot?
I can't believe that he did it because Joe Wilson's not that type of guy. He's very meek-mannered.
In House Resolution 3200, which is what everybody is talking about, even though we have 5 different bills from 5 different committees, and there is no legislation right now. So the president, because he wasn't speaking of a specific piece of legislation, he was speaking of his legislative goals, I would argue could not have been lying. But nonetheless, Section 246, as you know, of House Resolution 3200, which Wilson says he was talking about, the headline, Section 246, no federal payment for undocumented aliens. The text, nothing in this subtitle shall allow federal payments for affordability credits on behalf of individuals who are not lawfully present in the United States.
Yeah, it's called
Period, end of sentence.
It's called government speak because in reality you can have those words in a bill and you would think it meant something, but it doesn't mean anything if there's no verification or ability to actually enforce it. It's like saying, we're going to pass a 75-mile national speed limit. It's in this bill, so here it is, 75 miles an hour, but unfortunately, there are no penalties for violating it, no fines incurred, no points taken off, and no cop's going to go after you. So everybody will go as fast as they want. And if you say, but no, you can't, because it says right here in the bill the speed limit is 75 miles an hour. So what? It doesn't matter in any bill unless you have verification.
Assuming for the moment that that's all true.
Okay. You might be assuming that I lie.
No, I think that there's. I think the larger issue here, frankly, between you and me and this topic is that there is no bill yet, and so for either one of us to be saying this is how it is somewhat disingenuous.
Well, I can tell you that specifically to what you just read, what you just read to me,
right, is toothless. You're saying
is toothless.
Yeah, okay. I don't know, and it may well be. In fact, it probably is. But nonetheless, to the larger question, if somebody is sitting next to you, coughing, and they have TB, and you'd rather not get TB, before you call a doctor and have that person treated so you don't get infected, are you going to check their citizenship?
They shouldn't be there to begin with, right?
But they're here.
You admit that. So
no, I admit that they're here, and frankly, I think that we need to be throwing some employers in jail.
Agreed.
Okay, so we've got that out of the way. I mean, the solution to the problem is not to say to somebody who's sick in the United States, sorry, you can't get treatment, particularly in an era of deadly contagious diseases. Tuberculosis is the most deadly disease on Earth right now. Over 1 billion people infected, kills a person with every tick of the clock, every second.
And they're bringing these guys are bringing in a strain that we have nothing to actually combat it.
That's right. We have 2 cities, New York and Los Angeles, that are now code red with the World Health Organization for multi-drug resistant strains of TB.
Hell, we've got leprosy.
I know.
10,000 cases of leprosy.
So how can anybody say we want to limit health care in this country?
Because everybody knows
contagious diseases.
Everybody knows that all it takes is today, tomorrow, whether this bill passes with that language in it or not. Everybody knows that, of course, you go to any hospital and you walk into the emergency room and you say, I've got tuberculosis, and you're going to get treated. It doesn't matter what was in the bill and what was stated in the bill.
But hey, wait a minute. What we're talking about here is 2.5 years to treat TB. You've got to take 4 pills a day for 2.5 years.
All they do is hand them out.
That's not going to happen in an ER.
Oh, I beg to differ. You will get treated. You will get treated for as long as you want, as often as you want. The idea that we throw people out on the street with any kind of problem is great.
Why should we pay $650, every week or every month for somebody to walk into an ER and get, $30 worth of pills when it could be an $18 doctor visit?
Well, here's a better way, I think, to deal with it rather than giving them that benefit, and that is to provide the service at that point, the point of entry into that emergency room, and deport them the next day. You should just ask them.
Why not arrest their employer the next day?
Well, it's fine with me.
I guarantee if they no longer have a job, they will be on the next bus.
It is the most important reform we could possibly put into place is E-Verify. And the Democrats don't want it because they believe that there is E-Verify is a program Social Security operates that requires you as an employer, allows you now.
It's already in place.
It's been there for years. It's totally voluntary. But Arizona has made it mandatory, and it has been enormously successful. So much so that the president of Mexico started yelling a while back, saying, "What are you doing there? All these people are coming back. We can't handle it. Build the fence." No, I'm just joking. But he did, of course, respond that there was a big problem. If we could mandate that throughout the United States, it's a program that you go online, put in your little thing, and enter a Social Security number. It comes back within a few seconds, tells you good or bad. And if it's bad, you say to the guy, "I'm sorry, but you have to go take care of this. You don't have a good Social Security number." It's the best thing we could possibly do. And I'm all for it. And I would mandate it tomorrow for every employer in the United States of America. But in the meantime,
so many of your colleagues,
deport everybody else that you can find that's here illegally.
I've been sitting here for... This is the second day at the Federation for American Immigration Reform Conference, which has now I learned last night at dinner has been identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group.
Not the Southern Poverty Law Center. Oh no! In the belly of the hate group.
Indeed. Why is it that so many of your colleagues, particularly active duty colleagues, you're retired from the Congress now? Why is it that so many of your colleagues, particularly on the Republican side, but also on the Democratic side, actually I can kind of answer for the unions. They want more members, which I deplore, but nonetheless, why is it so many of them will aggressively and loudly and self-righteously say, yes, let's round up all those brown people and send them back south, but when you say, well, how about putting some of those white employers in jail, grabbing them before they get on their Learjets, all of a sudden they start choking up. I mean, I've literally had Republicans choke when I've asked that question on this program.
Because they're probably getting a great deal of support from that particular group. Chamber of Commerce is one of the most aggressive lobbyists on the Hill against any kind of immigration reform, at least that I describe as education reform. It's been that way since I've been here.
Immigration reform.
I'm sorry. And I need a little education on this topic.
It's still early in the day.
I came to Congress 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. I spent 10 years on this issue. It was my cause célèbre. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that I had 2 major obstacles to getting anything done. One was the Democratic Party that saw illegal immigrants, legal and illegal immigrants, as a source of voters. Mm-hmm. The other was the Republican Party that saw illegal and legal immigrants as a source of cheap labor.
Right.
And because that coalition always existed and still exists to a certain extent, it was very, very difficult to move the issue.
And it seems like this is an issue that we need to be having a national discussion on, that we can strip race out of.
Oh, that's got nothing to do with
and
race.
that we can strip even hyper-nationalism out of it and deal with it as, frankly, as a labor issue. I mean, this is traditionally how it was dealt with in America. But like you said, the Republicans won't go near that, and the Democrats and the unions are saying, hey, new members, and